All right, everybody. Welcome back to Inspired Forward. I'm Matt Johnson. I'm the producer for the show, and I'm super excited because I've got Dan here with me, and we wanted to do a special episode. I know if you're listening to the show, you probably heard a lot of guest episodes and a lot of amazing in-depth conversation with leaders in mortgage and real estate. We're going to talk about all that, but we're going to talk about more of what Dan's point of view is and the things that he's learned, both from the experience in the mortgage space, but also from having all these amazing conversations on the podcast. And it's all around one theme, which is how do you build a life that actually supports your chasing success in mortgage? And so first of all, just Dan, welcome back.
Thanks, Matt. It's great to have you on the show, and you always add so much value to me and to our listeners.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm super excited. It's been a while since we did one of these, and I think we'll get into some really fun stuff that I know will be genuinely helpful. So if you're in the audience, you're probably most likely a loan officer, a branch manager, owner, or a leader, an influencer in the mortgage and lending community. You might also be in the real estate side of things and looking at that world kind of as a partner or, kind of in the adjacent space. So we want to talk a little bit specifically on if you're in the lending space, especially if you're a loan officer, branch manager, owner, just what does it mean when you're chasing success? How do you build a life that kind of supports that? So let's start with the easy stuff, I guess. When you think about that, what's the first two or three things, Dan, that you think about if you were to help somebody that was coming into your company? And you're going to get a hold of them. They've got big goals. They're ambitious. They're driven. They're all those fun things. But you know that it's going to take more than that, right? They can't just focus 80 hours a week on their mortgage career and everything just works out peachy. So what are some of the questions that you would lead someone like that through to get them to start thinking about what their life looks like outside the mortgage business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think the most important thing is really nailing down the loan officer or real estate's why, their vision, and just really understand why they're in the business and where they want to take it. And most driven loan officers have visions of doing a lot more production. Sometimes the why is a little confusing, but I find that the loan officers that can really identify why mortgage and not something else, or why sell real estate and not something else, why they've chosen that profession, really helps me coach them on achieving that and driving more consistency and keeping them in their why. But that being said, the things that matter, in my opinion, to be successful in business, in mortgage or real estate, number one is their health. I think I find that a lot of, or I know I find a lot of producing loan officers aren't taking care of their health, and that eventually ends up being the thing that gets them. If you don't have your health, then it's going to be hard to give yourself the amount of hours and have the kind of stamina and energy that's required to be successful in our industry. So, I really recommend people getting on, a health plan, taking care of their physical health, not only their physical health, but their mental health, whether that's, some yoga or some meditation or just reading. And that's actually the second thing I recommend generally for loan officers is to get on a learning plan, because I found that, and this was actually supported by an article I read yesterday, that the top 4 characteristics of a billionaire is, number one, their focus on their physical health. Their second is reading. Their third is on morning routine, and their fourth is having detailed to-do and action lists that they focus on a daily basis. And those are the 4 things. And 3 of those, that the health, the reading, and the morning rituals are the things that I really focus on first. And to one more major addition is your key relationships, because I find that the loan officers and real estate agents out there that aren't taking care of their home life, whether it be their significant other or spouse or children, that tends to throw off their ability to do efficient work as well.
Yeah.
So,
I'm curious from, because I'm a little bit more on the real estate side.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious about the mortgage side. How unusual is it to go into a company, like as a loan officer or a branch manager or something like that, let's say, somebody who works for somebody else? How unusual is it to walk into an environment where the person you're working for even cares about what your life looks like outside of what you do in the office?
Well, I personally think it's extremely rare. And I saw this focus, or I saw the importance of well-being many years ago. In fact, there have been several loan officers that have left the company due to the fact that they believe that I care more about well-being than mortgage. And to me, that's crazy. And I care deeply about the health and happiness of everybody that works for our company. And I think it's critical that health and happiness exists in your life to be successful in mortgage. There's no question that the service we sell or the product we sell is a mortgage. It's to help people get into a home. But, owning the company and building something that's sustainable has to be more than that just the mortgage. I want to help people grow in life, and that means how to manage your relationships, how to manage your health, how to focus on, the other important activities, bucket list adventures, not working yourself, 12, 16 hours a day, making sure you take time out for yourself, just quiet time, because all that, and it's interesting. My wife right now is working 12, 16 hours a day, and she's hearing from me all the time that believe it or not, rest and recovery contributes to your ability to a more positive energy and stamina in your work. So if you take a day off, or if you take an evening off, the amount of work that you can do the next day or when you come back is substantially better. And that's really what I'm trying to teach.
Yeah, I think you probably have a lot in common. You probably agree with this this statement that my business coach made to me a few months back. We were talking about the concept of doing your best and what does your best mean. And I made the comment to him, like, part of the reason why I work out all the time, but don't necessarily enjoy the process of working out. I enjoy the results more than I do the process. And he was kind of poking into why that is. And I said, well, I think, at the bottom, it's that I don't ever really felt like I've done my best. Right. So you just get into the gym and you slam weights around you until you're exhausted and you want to throw up, and then it's good. But there's always that, for me at least, I'm a perfectionist. So there's always that little bit of but you could have done one more weight, one more set or one more rep or whatever. And so he made a comment to me. He's like, well, your best isn't your best doesn't deplete you for the rest of the day. Your best definitely shouldn't wipe you out for the rest of the week. Your best has to be defined as sustainable. Yeah. What is your sustainable best? And I think that fits right into what you've talked about on the podcast with taking the long-term view of things, because you've been on both sides. You've done your best and then burned out, and then you figured out, okay, I need to refine what that actually means.
Absolutely. And I found that if I'm not, and I get into the ruts and the routine of not working out, and I scratch my head and I wonder why I don't have that energy, or I'm in a little bit of a funk, or my vision's not clear and my energy isn't good. For the last 40 years, when I get in those situations, it always takes me a few days to a few weeks to a few months to realize, I haven't been working out. Or, I'm not reading consistently, because every time I read, it just invigorates me. It has me coming up with new ideas and it fuels me reading. So those are the two things for me, is making sure I'm working out. And it doesn't have to be, like you just said, it doesn't have to be, totally spent at the end of the day. It just needs to be the process of exercising and feeling like I'm staying in shape, or taking care of myself. And the reading is the reading serves a lot of purposes for me. It's that learning that I think, all people, all leaders, all successful salespeople need to keep learning just about life stuff. And it serves as quiet time, R&R, my time. And that's really important too in our health and happiness.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm sure a lot of people listening can identify with that exactly right there. You lose a track of a certain habit, and God forbid you lose track of the trigger habit that kicks off a whole stack of good habits.
Yeah.
And then you realize, okay, wait a minute, I haven't done any of these three things in the last month, right? And you think, well, I've been, like everything else is fine. But yeah, it absolutely does contribute. And that is the problem, right? So human beings, this is another thing that my business coach points out, which is that human beings are really terrible at tying cause to effect. If there's any longer than an hour or a day in between those two things, right? So we're terrible at tying together cause and effect. And that's, I think, why, just taking the long view of things, it isn't always easy. And we sometimes have to set up those guardrails, essentially. Like these are my routines, these are my rituals that I stick to, because I know that I can go without them for a couple weeks. The problem is 3 and 4 weeks after I've stopped them, I'll feel terrible and I won't know why. And I'll have to really deeply think about it. And then I'll eventually figure it out that it was because I let go of certain rituals and routines. And that, it's such a good reminder for anybody that's on the journey that wants to be successful. You kind of have to build those guardrails for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's like brushing your teeth, right? If you stop brushing your teeth, eventually you're going to have issues, and, sooner than later. So, it's just getting in those habits and a little bit at a time. And you don't have to go to the gym for an hour. You can take a walk around the block. My mom's going to turn 83 in December. And, she stopped a lot of the exercise fairly recently, and because she's had some hip and back issues. Well, now I've got her walking a few houses. So, she'll go outside, and she doesn't feel like she can walk all the way around the block quickly, and she gets a little worried. But I've got her walking a couple houses, and then the next day 3 or 4 houses, and sure enough, in about 2 or 3 weeks, she's walking around the block. She's walking to the store. She's doing things like that. So you just got to start. Loan officers need to start the practice of health and exercise. Watch what you put into your mouth. And that's what I have a horrendous challenge with, is, walking by pizza and saying no, walking by chocolate chip cookies and saying no. I cave 100% of the time and beat myself up for it. But, and it, it's also, I find that the complaint that I hear loan officers have are generally around, my spouse doesn't understand, I have so much work to do, but I need to get home for this, or I need to get home for that. And I try to shift that takes practice too. So, scheduling a coffee date on a Sunday morning with your spouse, scheduling a Wednesday night date with your spouse, and do things like maybe go to a movie or just take a hike or something like that, contributes to that side of the well-being. So you're not feeling the guilt and the pressure that you're not fulfilling that side. Because as soon as you have those kinds of problems, children problems, spouse problems, your business starts to have problems as well.
Yeah, I agree. It reminds me of the last agency I worked for before I struck out on my own. The CEO drilled it into everyone: regular, structured communication with clients. And I don't always follow that, sadly. But I'm sure, Dan, you can tell the difference between, like, when you and I are going to speak again, it feels different than getting off of a call and going, I wonder when I hear from Matt again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Mm-hmm.
just that relationship. I'm guessing I would bet anything spouses are kind of feeling the same way, especially if you're really driven and ambitious. And it kind of feels like to them that, the job kind of takes first place just because you're there 40, 50 hours a week. Having something on the schedule gives a sense of security and stability that, hey, if all else fails, I know that we've got this time carved out.
And it matters. And, when 90% of the whys that loan officers tell me has something to do with providing a great life for themselves and their families.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to get people back to their why and their vision. How well are you providing for your family when you're not there?
Yeah.
If you're not going to your kid's Little League game, if you're not going to your daughter's recital, if you're not there taking care of your wife, knowing that she's taking care of your kids on some special time, are you really providing a great, wonderful life for your family? They don't just want more things; they want great experiences with you.
Yeah, there's one of my other clients in the real estate space has a saying. I think it's somewhere along the lines of this: no success is worth failure in the home.
Yeah, that's great.
Really good.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so most of the people that have been on the podcast, probably all of them, but the majority really emphasize time with your family, time with your spouse, exercise, learning, a lot of personal time. A lot of very successful people. Something that I don't do enough myself is take just time for yourself.
Yeah.
Plan an activity where you're just going to go do something, whatever that is you want, whether it's a hike or a bike ride or, a day at the beach or whatever. That day's for you. And that seems to fuel a lot of the very successful people as well.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I've got a friend who runs very, very successful business out on the East Coast. And he said one of the things that exploded his business was taking every afternoon. He would literally leave the office, go to his tennis club because he was he loved to play tennis, and he would go you have to change your clothes, you go out, play a few rounds, so an hour and a half, 90 minutes of tennis with an opponent, come back, shower, change back into the suit, roll back into the office, and he said it absolutely exploded his business.
Wow,
super counterintuitive, right?
Mm-hmm, it is.
Yeah,
but I could see how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I challenge loan officers with is, and at first they're shocked, is I challenge their integrity. So we tend as business people to be on time for a business meeting, to do what we say we're going to do for customers, for business partners, but we tend not to do what we tell ourselves we're going to do. You set off in January, I'm going to get in great shape. I'm going to lose 15 pounds. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And, by the end of the month or two, you're not doing it. And that's, to me, it's just a violation of integrity. You don't keep promises to yourself.
Yep.
And you keep promises to everybody else around you, but you're not keeping promises to yourself. And then once that wheel starts spinning, then it becomes you've told yourself, I'm going to start working out on Monday, and you don't. And then you tell yourself, I'm going to start next Monday, and you don't. Pretty soon you've trained your mind to not even believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just a habit. And something comes along at some point in time that gets you moving again and gets you in there. And then you think, why haven't I been going the last 3 months or year?
Yeah, exactly.
Why am I 40?
Yeah, it's never as hard. It's never as difficult. It's never as painful as your mind convinces you it is.
Never. Yeah. But it's just getting people to understand that it has so much to do with the success of their business.
Yeah.
It really does. And
yeah, it's interesting. I think people that consider themselves in a high production environment fall into that trap even more, which is believing that just the more that we do, the more successful we are. And when I talk to really successful people, I find that the more they think and plan and take care of themselves, they're more successful because they spot opportunities they wouldn't have otherwise spotted. Right there, and then they're able to jump on them and maximize them. But I think that like folks that consider themselves like not in that entrepreneurial part of the world where they feel like they're getting an inflow of opportunities, they feel like, no, I just have to put the blinders on and I just produce. That's my challenge. I think I would push back on that too. I still think even if you consider yourself just in a high production environment where the only thing that stands between you and success is just how much work you do, there's still so many decisions that we make on a daily basis. Every time we interact with a client, if we're not fresh, we don't build as much trust as we can. They don't have as much confidence. We make mistakes that it takes 2 to 3 times as long to correct them as if we would have prevented them. Like there's so many opportunities, even in a production environment, where the better rested we are, the more we take care of ourselves outside of that, the more effective we are, even if we think it's just about doing more stuff.
Absolutely. And when you don't, like the example you just gave, when it just deteriorates your own confidence when you don't have productive meetings over time. So it might not be an effective meeting for your business, but what it's also doing is it's chipping away at your own self-esteem and confidence so that you'll have less meetings in the future or continue to have the kind of meetings you have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that contributes to a big problem you've seen. And I know I've seen it, which is people want to grow their business. They want to double their production. They want to do whatever. But in the back of their head, they think that means doubling their workload, which prevents them from actually accomplishing their stated goal. Yeah. All right. Let me quickly recap the four things that stood out to me, and I'm going to put them in question form so the audience can take this away. So number 1, what's your why? Right? Why you're in the business and where do you want to take it? Number 2, how are you taking care of your own health? Number 3, how are you learning and developing yourself? And then number 4, what are your key relationships? So those are the key 4 questions. And Dan, if you have somebody, obviously if you're listening to this, I would love for them to reach out. They can subscribe to the podcast and do all that fun stuff and get engaged that way. But if they're actually in your local area, I would love for you to just briefly tell people, first of all, if they're listening and they're in the audience and they're in your areas that you serve, how can they reach out? How can they connect? And how do they know that they're in your area?
Great. So you can get in touch with me through email, and that's DanT@partnersmortgage.com, PartnersMortgage.com. And I'll even give my cell phone. It's 916. That's the area code in Roseville, California, 916-847-4946. Text me or give me a call, and I'd be happy to chat with you.
Awesome. Any final words you want to leave with us, or anything, any books, any resources you'd point people to just to continue this kind of line of thinking?
Boy, I'm in the process of reading a couple books right now. I just brain locked on it, Joe Dispenza. I'm reading it for a second time. It's
the founder of the Spartan Race?
No. He teaches meditation.
Oh, okay.
It's called Becoming Supernatural. It may be the best book I've ever read. I put it out on social media a few months ago and decided I'm reading it for a second time now and getting a lot more out of it. And what other book did I start yesterday? A book called AMRAP, AMRAP. A friend of mine, Jason Kalipa, he wrote it, and it's really AMRAP stands for. I just started this yesterday.
It's I think I found it. As many reps as possible.
As many reps as possible. Yeah. Okay. and he's a guy that tells a pretty good story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started reading that.
Cool.
I also want to take this opportunity to promote
recordings.
you. To promote you.
Oh, thanks.
You know, you're he's a podcast producer. He has his own podcast, and I find his podcast to be extremely valuable. A lot of very, very good information. And if you're looking to start a podcast, get in touch with Matt.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate
Where can
that.
they get in touch with you?
Easy. Pursuingresults.com.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Dan, this has been awesome. I appreciate it. I love doing these. I wish we could do these more, but I know the audience can look forward to more solo episodes from you. We're going to map out some things to where you can really dig deep into some of those elements of the 4 questions and some of your other values and opinions and beliefs about what people in the mortgage space can do to build that kind of life that supports their chase of success. Because I think that's what we all want. We want to be able to run hard after our goals and not have to look back and wondering if everything else in our life is falling apart, right? We want the whole thing to move forward and not just one small piece of it at a time. So that's part of why I love producing the show. That's why I love doing the episodes with you, because I take away a ton of it. I'm going to get both those books right now, and I'll have them read, within the next couple of weeks and start incorporating some of that stuff, because I love this journey, and hopefully the audience does too.
Well, we're watching you grow for sure. So thank you, Matt. I really appreciate your time today.